Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the 40k Lowdown. And today I have the pleasure of talking to Uncle Adam, Adam Loper from Tabletop Minions, who's going to talk a bit about YouTube and the hobby and his new app, GameFor. So I think it's probably best off if, Adam, you just sort of give a quick overview of what GameFor is, what it's all about.
Sure. GameFor is an app that we've developed here at my day job. The YouTube channel is not my day job; it's my side job, and basically it's an app that is designed to connect tabletop gamers to each other. One of the hard parts of being a tabletop gamer is that it's very difficult sometimes to find other people near you to be able to play, tabletop games. With video games, you push a button usually in the menu and it says multiplayer, and then they hook you up with people all over, and then you play. With this, with board gaming, with collectible card games, with war games, with role-playing games, it's important to find people near you to be able to connect with. So mobile, apps are basically perfect for that kind of thing, because then that way it's very easy to be able to connect with people based off of your location, whether you use the GPS location services built into your phone, or if you don't like that, just put in your zip or your postal code or your city, and it will show you people around you. Now, we don't just show people around you. It's not, there have been other apps like that have just been like, well, here's some other gamers who live near you. Why don't you make some friends? Gamers have a tendency to be kind of introverted. So what we're doing generally instead is showing you events that are happening near you, whether it's store events, whether it's events in, all kinds of different places, store events that people have at stores, group stuff, things like that. And then it allows you to choose whether you want to go to that event or not, and find new people to hang out with, maybe, or at least new people to play games with. So it's more event based. It's we're also heavily we believe in game stores. We believe in that as being a good community for the people who play games. But it's not the only thing that we do as well. We've also got something called Looking for Players. And Looking for Players is kind of almost like, when you're at the game store, there's that cork board in the back, and it's got like the 3x5 cards on it saying that we're looking for a cleric for Thursday nights or whatever, that kind of stuff. And that allows people to be able to kind of almost put out like an ad saying, hey, I like to play this game, and this game, and I'm looking for people, and maybe I work second shift, so understand that ahead of time, and then you can kind of hook up at some point to get some sort of conversation going, and then actually start playing some games. So it's basically the game event section, the Looking for Players section, and as I mentioned, we believe in stores, so we have a database of stores in the Store Finder portion of the app. That is, we just recently passed 5,900 stores worldwide in the app. So it's kind of cool to see. I mean, if you're traveling someplace and you're wondering, I wonder if there's any stores around here, you pull out the app, put in the zip code or the postal code or just the name of the city, and it will show you all the stores that are around you. And it's kind of good.
Yeah, so you said you had 5,900 stores so far. Have you got any idea of how many people you've got so far?
Right now, we're creeping up on about 2,000 registered users. So that's where we're at currently. We're going to be, the thing is that at this point, other than doing some podcasts and me mentioning it on my YouTube channel, just on a couple of my live episodes on Sunday, on the Every Other Sunday show, we haven't done any kind of marketing yet. We're just about to start spinning that up. That's why we've been reaching out to creators, podcasters, video channels, all that kind of stuff. We've been reaching out to start doing these types of things, but we're also going to be starting to do advertising. We're going to be starting to do more of that kind of stuff. We're going to a big convention that's directed towards stores, actually. It's called the Game Manufacturers Association trade show. It's coming up in mid-March in Reno, Nevada. And the booths are all the booths are all manufacturers and companies that work with game store owners, distributors, service agencies, things like that. the people walking the aisles at this convention, it's 750 store owners walking the aisles. So we'll be talking to a lot of them as well. So it started out small. We've just launched it. We launched it just before Christmas 2017. So I think tomorrow is actually our 2-month anniversary. But like I said, we're almost to 2,000 people signed up worldwide, and we're just starting to turn on the taps of the marketing to try to get more people involved. So, if you get a chance to take a look at it and to try it out, if you look, the website is www.iamgamefor.com. So it's IAMGAMEFOR.com. And there's a link to the Android and the Apple version, so you can find either of those. You can also find them directly in the app stores, but there's so many apps in the app stores, sometimes it's a little harder to find. If you're going to search in the app stores, we usually suggest you type in GameFor and then also the word like tabletop, and then we're right at the top usually, because we call it in the app stores. I think it says GameFor tabletop gaming events or something like that. So that helps to just find it a little bit quicker.
So you said just there it's only on iOS and Android at the moment. Is there any plans to move it onto desktop or Amazon devices in the future?
I'm not 100% sure. Right now we do have so stores, if they want to, and this is free. If a store wants to, like I said, we have the store finder with 5,900 stores worldwide. If a store reaches out to us send us an email, stores@iamgamefor.com, they can request us to verify them. Usually we'll just give them a phone call to make sure that they contacted us. And then we can give them a username and password so that they can update their hours in the app, put in a description, put in a picture of their place, and also put in their events. All that is handled through a web portal as opposed to through the phone. So we designed it because we know that a lot of store owners are usually they've got a laptop at work or they've got some sort of computer. So we've got that access currently. But for the normal gamers, the users, the group people, that kind of stuff, currently it's mostly just plans for mobile. So whether it's going to be, like I said, Android or iOS, I mean, it's on both. As far as Amazon devices, I don't know a ton about them. I know most of them are running off of some form of Android, so I don't know that we're going to necessarily. We may look at doing the Amazon store. That's a good point. And like I said, down the road, web is a potential, but it's not on our very early roadmap. Our next early roadmap thing that we're going to have done before the middle of March is groups and clubs. I know that specifically amongst wargamers, I know that clubs are big in the UK. So we want to make sure that we've got stuff that helps to facilitate those types of groups as soon as we can. It was something we wanted to launch with originally, but we also wanted to hit a certain date. And so we knew it was going to be a fast follow and we were going to have it done. It'll allow groups to be able to have group events, whether they're public or private, be able to have group members and some messaging and stuff like that. So like I said, it should be coming. Our plan right now is to have it launched before we go to Reno for the Game Manufacturers Association trade show. So that should be done by the 12th, I believe, of March, because that's when the first day of the convention starts.
So is there any kind of functionality for push notifications? So if, say, a store that you like puts up a new event or store near you.
Yeah, that's coming soon, actually, because we wanted to mix the push notifications for that in with also the messaging notifications. So that's, like I said, also something coming soon. Right now, you can set a store as being a favorite store, and what our plan is that when you decide that this is a favorite store, we're looking at setting one of the options for favorite stores as send me a notification every time this store posts an event. And then the other type of big notification that we're also looking at pushing is when someone sends you a message in the app, because we've got a messaging system built into it as well. That's really how the looking for players works. That's how a bunch of the different things kind of work. So that's really what we're looking to do. But again, that's coming real soon. So it's probably just a little bit after groups, but we definitely the notifications thing. And basically what I mean, notifications, probably going to just have that little like that little red bubble next to the icon with a number in it or whatever to start. We're not sure if we're going to go full push notifications with messaging, but it depending on whether it's Android or iOS. They both do things a good deal differently. So, and we've designed them both separately natively within each operating system because we didn't want to try to shoehorn, a single app into both, ecologies, if you will. So yeah, we've made them both a little different. They both act a little different depending on which operating system you're on. So I know we're going to have to do the same thing with notifications as well.
So especially in terms of groups, but just sort of in general as well, what makes this app different than just being in a group on Facebook or liking your favorite store on Facebook?
The thing that we've been talking, because we've been researching this and building it and talking to store owners for more than a year now. I mean, we started the production on this, the actual coding back just before Christmas of 2016. So it took us about a year to get it all coded, but we had also started research and things like that previous to that. In talking to store owners, we've been finding more and more of them saying, I have 1,000 likes on my Facebook post or page, but every single time when I post an event, only 100 people see it or only 200 people see it. And that's Facebook's model. That's their business model, is that they want you to pay to boost your stuff. So they'll show it to more people who've already said that they want to see your stuff. That's kind of the way that they work. We don't do it that way. So one of the benefits for a store, let's say, is when they post an event, if a person looks at the events listing, the game events listing, and they are within range, because as a user, you have a filter at the bottom of that page. You can say, I only want to see events within 5 miles, 10 miles, 25 miles, up to 1,000 miles. And then there's also filters for the 4 different genres, because we handle board games, role-playing games, collectible card games, and tabletop war games, like miniatures and such. Like that's kind of my thing. So if you, let's say, don't ever play any kind of Magic or any kind of CCG, you can turn a filter to make it so it doesn't show those events. But if your settings are within the radius of this event and you have that particular genre turned on, we guarantee you'll see it, because if you come into the app, we're not throttling anything. There's no algorithm that chooses when to show things and when to not. It's a very transparent system. It's designed so that when you post an event as a store, it's going to get seen. The other benefit beyond that with Facebook is just the fact that Facebook is very fractured. I mean, when people, if you're looking to see events in your area, you very frequently, gaming events, you have to look at maybe 4 or 5 different stores' discussion groups. Sometimes they put it in a discussion group. Sometimes they put it on their store page, the events. Sometimes they put it in some other club group. I mean, it's all over the board. And so this way, the idea is that everybody can kind of put their stuff into one place and it's easier to find. It's going to get more people playing more games with just more gamers. So that's one of the big things, is to help that fracture. And then lastly, there's a lot of people, we talk to people all the time who say that, I was just at a convention recently and I overheard 2 guys talking, and one of the guys said, look, I wouldn't even be on Facebook anymore if it wasn't for this gaming group and whatever. And so I kind of sidled over and I said, I apologize for overhearing, and I told him about the app. So there's a lot of people who are, only using Facebook to some degree for that. Or there's a lot of people who are using Facebook and friends and family and all that kind of stuff, but they don't want to mix that in with their gaming stuff, whether it's because they don't want their friends and family to know that they're gamers, which is sometimes the case, or it's just a situation of like, I don't want to have to see all this political garbage and all that stuff, and I'm just trying to find out when the next time we're playing X-Wing is. You know what I mean? So that's kind of what we're doing. That's one of the reasons that's actually a lot of the reasons why we're doing this, and why we think it's better for tabletop gamers than, say, something like Facebook.
So another thing I'm interested in is if there's going to be functionality for saying, like, reviews, so saying that this store's really good, they run good events, or maybe saying like, this person is a jerk, don't play with them.
We don't have any plans currently for store reviews. We don't really want to go down that road because it just becomes, there's a lot of issues that can happen in that situation. We see it, at least around where I live, where, we've got two game stores in town. And so there's some people that prefer one versus some people that prefer the other. And so there can just be kind of back and forth and sniping and things like that on Yelp or on Facebook and or Google. And we just don't want to go down that road. As far as people, though, we're not going to necessarily do a review on people or anything along those lines, but we are going to, once we launch Friends, which will be a very, very close follow directly after groups and clubs, friends list and things like that, there will then be the ability for people to be able to report someone who's doing something inappropriate based off of the terms of service and terms and conditions. You can also block somebody. So if there's somebody that you've played a game of 40K with once at a store because you met each other wherever and you don't like playing against that person, you block them so that they won't see the stuff you posted, or, if you're going to go to an event, it will say, oh, by the way, this person who you've blocked is going to be there, just to let you know, that kind of stuff. We're very concerned about privacy and safety, which is one of the main reasons why at this point, if you want to post any kind of event, it can only be posted at a game store. That way it's always basically in public. You know what I mean? You can't put out an event and have people come to your house and that kind of stuff. That will change once we get reporting and blocking. Then we will have the ability for people to be able to do that. But at that point, it will become more of a basically it's going to be an added feature, and it's going to be part of the subscription model. Though the GameFor app is always free to use. You can post events, you can go to events, you can do all that kind of stuff. And as stores, you can also post your events and post your hours and do all that stuff for free. But we're going to have, and we haven't launched yet, but we're going to have some subscription models for people who want to help support the app so that we can keep doing it. We got to keep the lights on and the servers running. But then it'll also allow us to give those people added benefits. Like I said, the ability, if they want to post like an event that's not at a game store in our database, maybe they have their events at a coffee shop, or maybe they have it at a restaurant or a library or whatever, that you'll need to have the subscription. And we've been working on those models, and it's going to be reasonably priced and that kind of stuff. But those are all the things that we've been thinking about as far as, like safety and the ability to block and that kind of stuff. But we don't want to make it into, we don't want to make it into one of those things where people are reviewing each other and reviewing stores and all that stuff. I mean, if I know that I've been around gamers most of my life, and we just looked at that as being very problematic, just, based off of the anonymity and the internet and all that kind of stuff.
So I've run out of things specifically about the app I want to ask, but I've still got a few things about the hobby and YouTubing that I'd like to get in.
Sure.
I don't know if before getting into that, if you have any things about the app you want to specifically get into the show.
I just would ask that if people go take a look at it, like I said, it's www.iamgamefor.com. And that's IAMGAMEFOR.com. Take a look at the site. It's basically just kind of a teaser site right now with some links to the two stores. There's more information on each app store, and you can find out stuff there. If you're a store or if you've got if you go to a store, let them know about it. We just want to grow the app and that kind of stuff. But if the store is interested, if they're either not in our database or if they want to become verified so they can start posting events and setting their hours and doing that kind of stuff, they can just email me at stores@iamgamefor.com. But yeah, I think that this is a thing that we're pushing pretty hard. It's my day job, amongst other things, but it's very cool. And we've been getting really good response on it. And we've been getting a lot of people who've been saying this is the way it should be done. And we're just looking forward to the future. We're going to keep it up.
So my biggest question personally is that your videos always introduce you as Atom Smasher. And I've always wondered sort of what the story behind that name is.
When I first got on the internet back in the very early 90s, I was in the university, and we had access to something called Telnet, and it was before web pages. It was before any of that kind of WebSocket stuff. I was on some Telnet server through the university, and it basically asked for a username. And I was like, well, gosh, I don't know. What's my username? I never had a username previous to that. And so many of my ideas, for reasons that I don't quite understand, have a tendency to pop into my head almost fully formed. So I was just sitting there in front of the keyboard looking at this blinking cursor, And just the name Adam popped into my head. And I was like, okay, well, that's pretty close to my real name. So that's helpful. That's kind of cool. And I just started using that. And then I thought, well, I probably need some sort of, surname, some sort of last name. So I went with Smasher because it seemed kind of, logical. And it just sort of worked from there. The whole Uncle Adam thing, that was technically my fault. They always say you can't make up your own nickname, but as it turns out, I think you can. You just have to have a YouTube channel and put it out there and just keep telling people that that's it by accident. When I was going to first start doing my pro tip series on my channel, and pro tip is being facetious because I'm not a pro. I just wrote up this real quick. I was like trying to think of what I was going to call it. I was like, oh, Adam's Pro Tips. I don't know. And I used to years and years ago in college play a game called Car Wars, which was a great game, a lot of fun. And in that, it was, in the future, and people put guns on their cars, and it's kind of a sport, but it's also a way to get around the country. And it's a little post-apocalyptic, but, anyway, in that whole world, there was like a catalog you could get called Uncle Albert's like Weapon Emporium or Auto Duel Emporium, something like that. And Uncle Albert is where you went. That was the book that you bought that gave all the new stuff that they developed for the game each year. And then it was like ads almost, you know what I mean? Like it would be an ad for a landmine dropper or a flamethrower for the side of your car. And it would be like an ad and you give you all the information. And at the very bottom of the little ad in that catalog would be the actual in-game stats and how much it cost and in-game money and all that kind of stuff. So the whole Uncle Albert thing had stuck with me for a while. So at that point, when I was trying to come up with that series, I just decided to call it Uncle Adam's, Pro Tips. And then I had a friend of mine who was a longtime radio guy. I wrote up this real quick little bit for him and he recorded it for me with his radio voice. And then I just started putting that in the front of there. And then people just started calling me, Uncle Adam. And I'm older, so I guess I can be a lot of people's uncle. And that just sort of stuck. So yeah, that's kind of the long story of where all that stuff kind of came from.
So a lot of your channel is based on getting new people into the hobby. Would you say that YouTube is the best way to get new people into the hobby if they've never heard of wargaming?
If they've never even heard of war games, I don't know that YouTube's necessarily the best way to do it. If anything, I think that it's either word of mouth or walking into a store and then seeing all this stuff and being like, wow, once they've heard of the war game, or war games in general, then I think YouTube is probably one of the best, mainly because YouTube is the second largest search engine in the entire world. Google's first, but technically there's more searches every month on YouTube than there are on Yahoo and Bing and all the other ones combined. So people go to YouTube. Some people go there just for straight up entertainment, but a lot of people go there to ask questions, or even still you type in a question into Google. And if there's a YouTube video that's attached to that question or it has something to do with it, they're going to show those up at the top. So I know that a lot of people that come to my channel are typing like, how do I prime miniatures or how do I strip the paint off of a model? They're typing that into Google and they're seeing the videos. What is a wet palette? They're typing it into Google and they're seeing the video. So, I think YouTube is one of the better ways because so many people go there. Like I had to fix my parents' shower because it was leaking and I went to YouTube. It's just it's what you kind of do. So, I think it's probably one of the better ways right now. I think that once you get sort of stuck in and you start doing it more, I think podcasts can also be very good because then you've got something to listen to generally while you're painting. It's one of the reasons why I do my every other Sunday live shows. I mean, it's a 2-hour show and where it's mainly me being a talking head answering questions. A lot of people in a lot of other kind of genres would say that's no one's going to watch that. But our people, when we're painting, we're not watching it. We're just listening to it while we paint. And the fact that you can set it and forget it and will run for 2 hours is really kind of a big benefit for a lot of gamers, because if you've got a 3-minute video and then 3 minutes later, you got to find another video to play and you have to stop painting. The longer form like that is really, really helpful, as it turns out.
So I know that you are doing some seminars at Adepticon that's coming up. And I was wondering, because of your style of channel, sort of like helping people, if you thought that seminars were sort of a logical next step for you.
I think to some degree, like the seminars that I'm doing actually are not seminars about how to, make a wet palette or things like that. There are other, especially at Adepticon, there are far more talented painters and builders than myself who are there, basically giving seminars about all this kind of stuff. And it's crazy. I mean, there's the amount of talent you can get, especially at a place like at Adepticon, the amount of time and effort they've been putting into their hobby seminars and getting people from all over the world. It's really an amazing kind of resource. The seminars that I'm giving when I'm at these conventions are more about my area of expertise, which is how to YouTube. The two seminars I'm giving this year, I gave them at LVO. I'm going to be giving them again at Adepticon. They are about one of them is more about the technical stuff, about cameras and about editing software and audio and all that kind of stuff, and then the other one is much more about content and branding and strategy and things like that, on how to what kind of stuff you should talk about, how you should do it. Not exactly the business, but a little bit more than just this is the type of camera or whatever, that kind of thing. And the thing is the seminars are always different because I don't just like put up like a PowerPoint and follow along. I just kind of talk about stuff and I answer questions as it goes. So you could see the same seminar 2 nights in a row and it would be a different seminar kind of. So that's just the way. And I'm grateful to have the ability to be able to do those and to teach more people about it, because I think there should be more people creating content, whether it's for wargaming or board gaming or CCGs or whatever. I'm generally in the wargaming area, and so therefore that's the conventions I for the most part go to. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. I mean, this year at Adepticon, I've got, like I said, the 2 seminars. There's 24 seats for each, and they've both been sold out for probably at least a month. The technical one sold out first, and then there was like a couple of seats kind of straggling on that other one. But about a month ago, they disappeared. So they're both sold out this year, which is really cool. I'm glad.
On the subject of conventions, have you ever considered coming to the UK to come to one of our bigger conventions like Warhammer Fest or Salute?
I would like to. I really would. I don't currently have a what do you call that? A passport, as I've never really left the country. There's a lot of stuff to see here. I've never been a big traveler, so this has been also a very different thing for me now. I haven't flown in a plane, like a commercial plane, since like 2008, and then in 2016 I went to Valhalla, the Wargamers retreat in Utah, and then I went again this last year, and then I also went to Las Vegas Open, and I'm going to be going to Reno in March, and then probably hoping to go to the Nova Open in Northern Virginia. That's at the very end of August. So yeah, it's just it's becoming a bit more travel, and I'm kicking around the idea very strongly about how I would like to travel overseas. I don't know if it's a Salute thing, or I'd like to. I mean, of course, I'd love to check out, Warhammer World. And I'd love to make a quick visit if possible. I don't know how quick it would be able to be, obviously, because it's a distance, but I'd love to make a visit up to Northern Ireland and stop by and see the Beast of War guys. That's kind of where I got my start. I worked for them as a U.S. correspondent for like 3 years, from I think 2010 to 2013-ish. And I left with them when I decided to start my own channel. So my channel's actually, I just was thinking about this recently, my channel's 5-year anniversary is coming up at the 1st of March this year, because my first video, I believe, was March 1st, 2013. So yeah, it's coming up on 5 years.
So something that's quite important to me personally, because I'm in school, I do YouTube and I do hobby and other things, is how do you personally sort of balance your work and YouTube, and then also having time to do some hobby as well? Because obviously, everything's got to have a go.
Yeah. The main thing is, well, for one thing, my wife and I don't have any children, so that helps a lot, actually, because I do know a lot of friends who, have got children and a family to raise and everything. My wife and I are both pretty independent, and we both kind of have our own hobbies. She's into board gaming more than I am, and she's also into music, and I'm more into this kind of video photography thing and the wargaming hobby. Honestly, the best step for me, and it's advice I'll give to anybody who's interested, is I pretty much just stopped watching television. Like every once in a while, Maybe some series might come on Netflix that's like really up my alley, or something like that. But just, the amount of time that I used to spend just sitting there and watching television, like you get home from work and you sit down and you eat dinner and you watch some television, and then all of a sudden it's 9 o'clock and you're like, oh, I haven't started painting yet or doing anything. Cutting that out and just, because frankly, I just wasn't finding much of it interesting, but the ability to cut that out has really saved me a whole bunch of time. If you're looking for entertainment and that's a thing that you really want in your life, which I'm not against at all, obviously, my entertainment now is going down in the basement and either listening to podcasts or audiobooks while I paint. I can't really do that while I'm editing or while I'm shooting a video, but that's the trick. Another way that I find it's really important to balance too is to just kind of plan. So if I know that if I know my video, I'm going to be recording it on a Wednesday night or a Thursday night, then I can maybe plan another night that week or another couple of nights that week, hopefully, to be able to spend, actual time, doing hobby painting, things like that. And then when I do that, I put it in my phone. So it actually, comes up as like a, like an appointment, and it says, okay, it's 7 o'clock, you should be in the basement. And then I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. And then you go do it. It's very easy to lose motivation that way, and not be doing it because you're just sitting there and you're trying to veg after a day of work or whatever, and you're watching some television. But when you remind yourself to do something, at least I find it works better for me. So.
As you said earlier, you've been on YouTube for quite a while, and I'm interested in sort of how did you get into YouTube, and how would you recommend people these days get into YouTube, because obviously it's very different now.
Sure. As far as getting into YouTube, I got into it, like I said, I initially got into it in 2010 in that I was, basically the guys from Beasts of War posted a video about how their new, at the time, website was going. And I've been a web designer for 20 years now. And so I was kind of interested in that, obviously, and I've been following their channel. And then, they also, in the title, mentioned something about Gen Con. So Gen Con's the biggest tabletop convention in America. It's about 62,000 people show up every year. It's always in August, and it's in Indianapolis. So they mentioned Gen Con in the title. I thought, oh, cool, maybe they'll be at Gen Con. I'll have to stop by and say hi to them. I would love to meet them or whatever. And at the end of the video, they just mentioned Gen Con. They're like, hey, if anyone's going to Gen Con, mention it in the comments below. So I posted and said, yeah, I've been going to Gen Con since like 1992. I've only missed maybe 3 or 4 of them since then. And I'll be there again this year and whatever. And then I went to bed. And, being 6 hours ahead, as you guys are over there, when I woke up in the morning, I had an email from them and they said, hey, do you have an HD camera? Do you have a microphone? Would you talk to these people and these people and these people? And so that's honestly how I kind of got into doing that and becoming this kind of correspondent. So I was just doing that at Gen Con and Adepticon. Adepticon is actually only about a 3-hour drive for me, so it's relatively close. Gen Con is about a 7-hour drive, so it's a little bit worse, but I don't have to fly to either one of them technically. So I started going to those conventions and doing that stuff, and then I decided I wanted to learn more about video production myself. That's why I really got into the channel and decided to do it, is because I kind of wanted to make my own videos and do things my own way, and I also wanted to learn about more about that stuff. I went to school for photography. I worked at a camera store all through college, but I wanted to learn more and find out more about it and start doing, filmmaking. I think that when you want to learn a new skill, you should apply it to a hobby. If you're trying to get into, something, and if you don't know what to do, when you're a kid in art, they give you, some paper and some crayons and they tell you to draw something. And a lot of kids are like, I don't know what to draw. And then there are the other kids who are immediately drawing, dinosaurs because they're super into dinosaurs, or they're drawing race cars because they're really into race cars. So having something to make your videos about makes a lot of sense, and it keeps you doing it. So that's why I really got into the channel. As far as how to get into channels these days and go that direction, I would really say that first things first is probably make sure you're actually passionate about it. Make sure you're passionate about the subject. Make sure you're passionate about trying to make content. You need to be consistent. My first 2.5 years, I was not consistent with my videos. Sometimes there'd be 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks in between. And then in late September 2015, I decided to start, it was October of 2015. I decided, it was just after I hit 10,000 subscribers, I decided I was going to start making a video every Friday. And it's been 2.5 years and I haven't missed a Friday yet. that really helps to get you more traffic, because people start to expect it. YouTube ranks you higher in the algorithm because they see that you're serious about it, because you keep doing it the same time, the same day, every day, every week, or whatever. So that's a big deal. And then I would say also the other important thing is to not look at it as a money-making thing, not look at it as like, oh, this will be the job, or what, I mean, I didn't turn on monetization ads and stuff like that on my channel until after I hit 10,000 subscribers. And I didn't have a Patreon until actually a year ago. So you need to, I think, put out a body of work, kind of find your voice, figure out what you're doing. And then once you've been doing it for a while, and you've got to deploy patience, and it's important, but once you've gotten to that point, then you can start maybe, going down that road. But you also may 3 months in find that you just don't have the patience, or you don't have the interest, or whatever. But I think over time it can be, if you stick with it, and if you're patient and you push, it may not even be like the AdSense or the Patreon. I mean, honestly, this job working with, the company that we're like a small group, we're 6 people, we're all tabletop gamers, but we make apps for companies. We do client work. We've been doing GameFor on the side. The whole reason I got hired here, partially, besides the fact that I am a designer, is also because of the YouTube channel, So it's not just what does the YouTube channel turn into directly, it's also the opportunities it can bring to you.
So yeah, that's all the questions that I have. It has been really interesting for me. I hope it's also been interesting for the people watching.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
So if you have made it all the way to the end, please leave a like, consider subscribing, and I will see you again next time.